don't really understand it. They don't know your story. You don't know my story. You don't know the things. You don't.
In GX family here in the UK and all around the world. Welcome to Michelle Hemmings' Organ Donation Life Stories. It's a blessing to be here. How are you all doing today? Now, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, and between myself and my guests, we will try and answer them. Now, you are going to be re-educated about living donation. My next guest, Della Adiru, she is the founder of Gift Living Donation. I hope I said that right, but I know she will come on and explain it anyway. Now, I know some of you have heard of donation from a deceased person. So when the person passes, they donate their organs, different parts of their organs, to whoever needs that part of the organ. So like myself, I needed a single lung. So my lung came from a deceased person. But Della is going to explain to you about living donation, where the person is still alive and they donate either probably their kidney or their liver to the person who needs that organ. So I'm going to introduce to you Della Adiru, co-founder of Gift of Living Donation.
Hi, good evening, Michelle. Good evening, and thank you for having me this evening. Thank you so much.
Good evening,
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to ask you to tell everybody your name, your organization, and where about in the UK you're from, please.
Well, you did a good job. Of course, you did a really good job, Michelle. I have to say that, pronouncing my name. So my name is Dele Idun, and I'm the founder of a charity called Gift of Living Donation, or GOLD for short, and we're based in Northwest London.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to start asking you a few questions and see how we get on today.
Okay, let's go for it.
All right then. What made you decide to become a living kidney donor?
Well, do you know what? It's really strange because my actual background is in HIV and AIDS international development. I actually have a charity in Nigeria for aid orphans. So that really is kind of my background. But one Sunday afternoon, my brother came over and he was coming over for lunch, and we had our normal, banter in the kitchen. And he then said to me that, Della, I've got kidney failure and I would need a transplant. And because we know that, so I was really surprised. And I looked at him and I'm like, wow. And then we talked about, how long it would take him to wait on the organ donor register, because as you know, Michelle, we from the Black community don't come from
we wait longer.
We wait much, much longer. So he knew that his wait on the waiting list could be anything from 3 to 4 years. And then he mentioned something about finding a living donor. And I said to him, what's that? What's a living donor? And so when he told me, for me, it was like, okay, I'll do that. We've got 2 kidneys. I only need one. I'll give you one of my kidneys. So that was how I started that journey of becoming a living donor for my brother.
But before you was able to donate, you had to be a match. So I'm assuming that you was a match. You went through all the tests and everything.
Yes, and it's interesting. If I go back a little bit, even though I didn't know anything about it, but for me, it was a no-brainer because he was my brother, and I wanted to see him have a better quality, of life, and I wanted him to maybe have a preemptive transplant where he wouldn't have to go on dialysis. So you're right. The next day, I was up at the hospital. I wanted to donate to my brother. So they gave me an appointment, and you have to do 2 tests first, which is your blood and your urine. and I was really successful. I was a 6 out of 6 tissue match from my
Wow,
brother, which is the
that's
highest that
fantastic.
you can get. So for me, I was on that journey to being a living
Okay.
donor for my brother.
Oh, wow. I'm so happy for both of you. So, how many years had you had this transplant? How many years has it been now?
So what had happened, Michelle, because as I said, I was a 6 out of 6 tissue match for Taya. As far as I was concerned, I was going to be a living donor. And it was very interesting because when I was on that journey and I was
Yeah.
talking to a lot of Black people about what I was going to do, just
Okay.
like myself, a lot of Black people were like, well, living donation, what's that? So a lot of people said, no, not doing it. But when I explained that, well, it was for my brother and I
Oh,
want him to get
tell
better
the
quality
story.
of life. Very
Yeah.
interesting. A lot of Black people said, well, do you know what, Della? I can do that. I can be a living donor, but I'm not going to
Yeah.
sign up to the organ donor register. So that was very interesting to see that dynamics there. But as you rightly
Okay.
said, Michelle, you've got to go through a whole stringent of tests. I think I went through about 5 or 6 months of real strong health tests, blood pressure, liver
Okay.
function, kidney
Yeah.
function. But
Bloods
sadly,
and everything.
bloods and everything. But sadly, after doing about 8 months of different tests, I was told that I couldn't donate to Tyre because it might put my own life and health at risk. And it was actually during that whole period of heartbreak and hopelessness and not being able to help my brother that I said, you know what, something good's going to come out of this. So that's where I then decided and motivated to set up Gold, just to raise more
Okay.
information about living donation within the Black community.
Which is much, much needed because we do need to be educated about living donation and deceased donation as well. So
Yes.
good on you.
Thank
Proud of
you.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Can anyone become a living donor?
Anybody can become a living donor, but the most important thing, as I know from my experience, is that you are healthy, and that's why they
Yes.
do all these tests. So anybody can become a living donor, but you've
Okay.
got to be compatible blood, the tissue
Yeah.
type. And you have
Okay.
people who can be a direct donor, but I would say within the Black community, the majority of people that do become living donors are family members, and
Okay.
if you've got a best mate, then the best mate. But normally it is people who are family members that do come
Yeah.
forward as living donors.
Okay. And does it matter about your age? Is there a particular age or is there age gap or anything?
No, I mean, they don't like, because it's a really serious thing. And, we're asking somebody, Michelle, who really doesn't need an operation to have an operation. And very interestingly, when I wasn't compatible, my 2 daughters, who are very close to their uncle, they were like 24 and 26 at the time. They put
Okay.
themselves forward to become a donor. They don't like to take anybody who's really younger than 18 because it's something that's really, really life changing. But
Okay.
it's more about the compatibility, because you
Yes.
could be that right age, but it's about being compatible. Yes.
Okay. And the bloods have to be a match as well, like you
The
said
blood,
before.
yeah, and your tissue and your kidney function as well. That's the main thing, because what they won't take a healthy person and put that at risk. And I think that's a lot of the things a lot of Black people think, oh, are they just going to take my kidney out? No, they just wouldn't do that. I mean, I said
Yeah.
that. I was like, take my kidney, I don't mind. And they're like, no, Della, you've got to be
No, you got,
healthy. You've got to be
yeah, and go
healthy.
through
So
all
yeah,
those tests and
yes.
all the tests as well. Because I
And
remember
all
when
the
I was going through, I remember when I was going through mine before my transplant, I was going back and forth to Papworth once every month. Took about 2 or 3 hours to get there just to give them some bloods. But
yeah.
that blood test was really important because that will
Mm.
find a match for me as well. So I didn't mind the drive up there, but just for one simple blood, it was just so long. But
Yeah,
I'm
I
glad I
can,
did.
yes,
I'm glad
it's
I
just,
did now
yeah,
because
so
I'm here
important.
now.
Yes, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to have a biopsy in the end, and all of these tests are so important because, especially
Yeah.
in the Black community, where we are exposed to so many other underlying health issues that we're not even aware of. So it's so important, and I keep on saying that NHS, the health professionals won't just take your kidney. You have
Mm-hmm.
to be a thorough match. And even you must remember the person who you're donating to, they wouldn't
Yeah.
want you to put your life at risk just to help
No, they
them
wouldn't.
as well.
Yeah.
So, yes, yeah.
Thank you for that
You're
information.
welcome.
Now, we're getting quite a few messages coming in from the GX family, saying good evening. I'm also getting a message from Donna. She also said good evening to yourself and
Thank
to
you, Donna.
me. Thank you, Donna. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so our next question is, why is living donation especially beneficial for Black people with kidney failure?
Michelle, as you know, with all the work that you do, we only have less than 1% of Black people on the organ donor register.
Which
So
is
you
so
can
low.
imagine if you've got a loved one who's got kidney failure, I can tell you they'd be spending 3-4 years on dialysis. That is not a walk in the park for anybody who we love. So the more people that can come forward as living donors, the more
Yes.
we can help our loved ones. And those who aren't able to have a living donor, what we are then doing is that we're almost freeing up an extra kidney on the waiting list for those that don't have a donor. So for me, it really is making sure that our loved ones don't spend years on dialysis. It's 3 times a week. That is, and
That's
and in
right.
between dialysis, they don't have that freedom. So it's that freedom from dialysis we want to give them and have a good, better quality of life. And if I speak to the 500 or so Black living donors that we have in the UK, they would tell you exactly the same thing, Michelle. It's about giving their loved ones that better quality of life and freedom from dialysis.
Yes, and having the treatment 3 times a week, it leaves you really tired and fatigued.
It does.
So you want to lessen that and having more people come forward.
Yes, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I definitely saw the difference in my brother when he was on dialysis. And Michelle, I almost lost my brother because they don't have a life, they don't have a social life, and there's other side effects when you have dialysis. But now that he's had his transplant, oh my gosh, I never even see him now. He's out partying every night. So that really
He's jumping up and down, going out.
His family, because it impacts not just on the patient, though, it impacts on the whole family as
And
well.
family,
So
definitely.
so that's why we do the work that we do, so we can raise more awareness and just kind of get people to know a little bit more about living donation, because what you don't know, you fear, if you know what I mean. So definitely.
And as you know, organ donation has got a campaign out called Leave Them Certain. So we want to try and encourage people out there to have that vital conversation with the families. It don't have to be every day. It could be just once every couple of months, and just mention about your decision when you pass. So when you pass, at least your family will know what they want, and saving everyone getting upset about something that they shouldn't be getting upset. At least they know that person's decision. So
and I
that
think that
leaves them certain.
you're right, Michelle, and I think that's very crucial, because when you're faced with that decision, when the nurse asks you, you are uncertain, and you're like, well, actually, I really don't know what my loved one would have wanted. So inevitably, you then say no. But if you just have that discussion, it could be over dinner. It could say, look, this is me, this is my decision, and it's important. And I think a lot of the times, you actually do help that family. You actually are helping your family by letting them know what you want, so they don't have to make that decision on your behalf. Because you know what, that's what Della wanted. She wanted to be an organ donor. And that's it. It just makes it easier.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think is the biggest challenge for Black people to ask loved ones to donate a kidney and for loved ones to give a kidney? What are the biggest challenges?
Do you know there's so many, barriers and obstacles. But we actually did an event. It was almost like a kind of a networking event, but it was really just about living donation. And
Okay.
the biggest one on both sides, from a patient's point of view and also a family member's point of view, was
Yeah.
fear. I think from a patient's point of
Mm.
view, it was that fear of, well, how do I even ask my loved one to be a living donor? Well, supposing I ask them and they say no, is that then going to affect our relationship as a family? So that
Yeah.
whole fear of, well, what do I say? How do I construct this? Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
stops people by saying, do you know what? I'm not even going to ask, just in case something
Okay.
happens. I'll just take my chances on the waiting list. But sometimes you find that the people have summed up the courage and have
Yeah.
asked, and it has been life changing. And on the other side, in terms of family, as I said to you earlier, Michelle, we're really asking loved ones to have an operation they don't need. And
Okay.
it's about information. So I think the more informed people are about the whole process, I think the
Yeah.
more knowledgeable they are. But a lot of family members are, well, supposing something goes wrong, supposing I
Mm-hmm.
donate a kidney and somebody in my family, one of my children or my husband needs it, what then
Yeah.
happens? So for me, it's that whole fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
But I like
Mm-hmm.
what Maya Angelou said, that when you know better, you do
Yes.
better. So
Of
for
course.
me, it's about getting that information, out there. So I would say definitely fear and a little bit of culture, because it's not something that we practice in our culture.
Yeah.
But when my mother was told, as I told you, I'm from Nigeria, and my mum's from the older generation. And I remember when we told mum that both her children might have an operation at the same time, my mum's
Wow.
forthright, well, no, that's not happening. But when we educated her, my mum just does what she does best. She says, well, do you know what? I'll pray about it, because if this is going to help her son and you can do it, then why not?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think education really kind of is important, and it comes before culture, really. Yes.
Yes.
Mm.
Being educated like we are doing now is much needed in the community. So we need
Yes.
we need more people like yourself actually, to get out there and educate and just tell the people about more about organ donation and especially about the living donation. So
Yes.
once again, good on you for spreading
Thank
the word about
you.
living donation and keep on
Thank you.
going. Don't let nobody stop you.
you know,
Okay.
me and my brother we always talk about this thing, and we always say, well, just supposing, Michelle, I had been successful and I had managed to donate, would I be
Yeah.
doing the work that I'm doing now? And I honestly would say no. I think I would have donated, been here
Okay.
for my 6 months or whatever, and then I would have gone back to Nigeria and then just continued with the work that I was doing. So it's
Oh
interesting
wow.
for me, I think, as a Christian as well, the plans
Mm-hmm.
that God has for us that we're not even aware of. So it's been an interesting journey.
Okay. Great to hear. Okay, tell us about the Peerphone body scheme. Could you tell us a bit more
Wow.
about that?
Yeah. You said earlier, it really is about, well, how can we kind of educate our community? But I think we as community members, as Black people, we really do have a responsibility. And yes, the NHS are doing a great job, but I think it's
Yeah.
we as a community that really need to see how we can improve the quality of life of our people. And
Yeah.
we had an event last, no, 2 years ago, and we brought together
Okay.
over 500 Black living donors. There's about 550 Black living
Wow.
donors in the UK.
500.
Yes,
Wow. Okay.
so even though people say, well, Black people don't donate, well, we have about 550, so that is quite a
Yeah.
good number. We still need to do more, but for me, that's still great. And it was some of these living donors and recipients who then said, look, we want to give back to our community. How can we share our story? So during COVID-19, we kind of talked to a lot of patients, possibly preemptive dialysis patients, those who haven't started dialysis, and we talked to them face to face about living donation. And then COVID hit, so we couldn't do that. So what happened that we quickly adapted and set up a phone buddy scheme where family members and patients could then still speak to us about living donation, and we can give them information. So that's how the phone buddy scheme started. We have about 25 Black living donors and recipients who really just share their story, Michelle. And I think it's that story of sacrifice, of love, of motivation and encouragement that has really empowered a lot of family members to go back to their loved ones and say, look, can you be a living donor for me? There's organizations out there and there's people out there who have done it, and I think I can. So it's been really, really good. And just people just sharing their stories and just passing on information and education, really.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
We got a message from the GXTV saying, well done for the valuable information, and thank you for sharing the information about living donation.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So I think it's so important.
Thank you. And then from Donna, she's saying God is always in the midst of what we do, which is so true.
It really is. It's so true, because I honestly, when I couldn't be a living donor, I had to have a frank talk with God. But hold on a second, Lord, you know that Black people don't come forward.
Oh, wow.
You know that I'm a willing person. I actually want to, because as a Christian, there's a scripture that says there is no greater love and when we lay down our life for our friends. So for me, it was, well, just giving my brother a kidney. But I think it was later on, Michelle, that I then began to see the bigger picture through the charity, through the books and all the work that we've done, that God was certainly in the midst of what we all do, definitely.
Of course, definitely. Now I'm going to ask you one more question because time is getting on. So, yes, tell us about the Because of You event for Black living donors, please.
Yeah, that was the event that we had, because one of the things that when we were talking to patients in the clinic, it was like, well, we don't know any other Black living donors. And I'm like, well, if we have over 500 out there, we need to bring them together. So it was a fantastic event where a lot of Black living donors were meeting another living donor for the very first time. So that was great. But it was also an opportunity for the recipients to publicly say thank you, to their donors. So we couldn't have one this year or last year because of COVID, but we'll definitely be having one next year, hopefully bigger and better. So yeah, so that was the the big Because of You that we did.
Okay. And I hope to be there myself. So
definitely, definitely get your dancing shoes on, and it's just a great atmosphere just to see so many Black people wanting to make a difference and increase the quality of life for people in their own community. It has to start with us, and it's just really great just to really be here.
Of course, and with you and me and others out there educating people about organ donation, living donation, I'm sure we're going to get there. So
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you if they have any questions or anything like that?
Well, I just want to say, if anybody that's listening, or somebody that actually, do you know what, there's somebody at work or there's somebody in my family that's got kidney failure and they need a little bit more information about what I've been talking about what's living donation, please, visit our website. It's www.giftoflivingdonation.co.uk, and you'd find any information you want about living donation, especially from a Black perspective. There's videos, there's podcasts, and you can just get all that information or just drop me an email and I'll be able to answer you.
Okay. Could you just say that one more time? How they can get in touch with you, your email address and website?
Our website address is www.giftoflivingdonation.co.uk.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I'd just like to say thank you to my special guests, and I hope you enjoy the program. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask Delia,
Della,
just
yeah, got it right.
just just email the info. Just email her on the email you can see at the bottom of your screens. So it's goodbye for myself and goodbye for Delia, and thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining me tonight. And
Thank
I'll
you
see you
so
all
much.
next week. Thank
Thank you for
you.
having me, Michelle. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank
No
you.
problem.
And thank you to our
Thank
listeners
you.
for joining us today.
Okay. Okay. Bye-bye. See you next week.
Some people have seen where God has brought you from. You don't really understand it. They don't know your story.
You don't know my story.
The things